I've been involved in football all my life as a player. I played for Wales 24 times, which, by the way, was every game that Wales played during the period of my career, because women's football was much less advanced then. I was captain of my country. As soon as I hung up my boots, mainly to concentrate on my academic career, I was pretty clear that I probably wouldn't go down a coaching route because of my other professional interests. And it seemed obvious to me that I should try and put something back into my sport. And I did feel I had something to offer, with my governance background. So I've been involved in the governance of football since I retired, with the Welsh FA, obviously, and more recently with UEFA. And those football anoraks amongst your audience will know that I did try to stand for this same election back in 2016, but was prevented due to the British vice presidency rule. And I'm really grateful to the Football Association of Wales, and indeed all the UEFA nations, for supporting a change to that regulation, which means that we were allowed to contest the election now for the women's place from UEFA onto FIFA Council this coming April. So the reason I want to do it, I think, is quite simple. I think I can make a contribution. I'd be the first European international who's been captain of her country to sit on FIFA Council. So I know the game inside out, and not just the women's game. I've been involved in all aspects of boys and men's football as well. I'm a strategic thinker when it comes to the game. I like planning a really ambitious strategy. And I know how the game's pieces, the jigsaw pieces of the game, fit together. So I've worked at grassroots level. I'm passionate about children's football and school football, but I know as well as an ex-player, just where the potential obstacles are in the pathway to become an elite player as well. So I think I can bring something to the table, and I've never really done anything in my career unless I feel I can make an active contribution, and unless I think my voice will carry some weight and some receptiveness, because I don't think there's much point campaigning to have women on FIFA Council, or indeed on UEFA Exco, unless you have women who can speak for the game with authority, with knowledge, with a degree of expertise. And I hope that that's my profile, and that the UEFA nations will look at me and think I can be a really strong voice for them around the table in FIFA. So that's the main reason why I'm doing it. In terms of my campaign and my manifesto, I mean, the elections in April, we're in the process of meeting what we hope will be every single one of the other 54 UEFA nations. I've met lots of them already, and we're receiving a really positive and productive response from them. My manifesto, I think, would be relatively simple. We're working on it at the moment, but we know what we want to say. I'm a football candidate, as I said a moment ago, so I'm immersed in the game. I've grown up in the game. I'm a total football anorak who can happily spend all her waking hours either watching the game or reading about it. So I love the game. It's in my heart. My two girls play the game as well. I still play vets football now, not as well as I used to, for obvious reasons. So I think that aspect of my manifesto is pretty clear. I'm a football candidate. I'm also somebody who I hope will fit into the zeitgeist of FIFA and UEFA at the moment, which is that we recognise we need to modernise, we need to change, we need to become more diverse, we need to reform the governance of our sport to make it deliver more. Football is a game for everyone at the end of the day, and if we're not delivering equally for everyone, then I think we're not doing what we are there to actually do. That's really important principle. So, I'll be standing on a manifesto of contributing towards that change process that Gianni Infantino and Alexander Ceferin are already driving forward. My background around diversity is very clear, so I'll be emphasizing some of that, how important it is to get a diverse governance structure so that you deliver better for the people you serve. You would expect me to be able to say something about women's football, having been an international player and somebody involved in the governance of the game. I think there's something more fundamental about women's football, which is this is where the real room for growth is. We know that the game is growing much faster than the boys' game and the men's game because there's so much headroom above it. And that will bring with it really unique opportunities, not just for participation, but for coaching, for sponsorship, for the corporate side, for the growth of the FIFA Women's World Cup, and indeed the UEFA Women's Champions League. All of those things are really important, and I'm across them, obviously, with my involvement in UEFA and in the domestic scene in Wales and beyond. And then finally, I think, and this is a really important ethical issue for me, I think we have to have what I know has been referred to by Alexander Schäferin as competitive balance. As we grow the game in Europe and indeed in the world, we can't leave countries behind. We've got to make sure that everyone comes on this journey with us, whether it's for the women's game, whether it's for children's football, whether it's for social inclusion, or whether it's for the elite game. We can't afford to let some countries, clubs, whatever, advance so fast they leave behind a big gulf between them and the rest of football. I think competitive balance is the way the game grows for everybody in a way that benefits everybody. And I think that's a really, really important principle. And all of that, by the way, is underpinned by my values, which are anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobic. And I think the values are fundamental. You have to stand on a values platform if you want to be a leader and contribute in football. And I think we need to look to do even more on all of those agendas. Racism, as we said a moment ago, continues to blight our sport, and we can't afford to let it continue. We have to address these issues really head on now. And that, in essence, will be the basis of my manifesto.